Today's fairy tale involves cats that are sassy and vengeful. The colony of cats from Andrew Lang's Crimson Fairy book purported to be Italian. There were a bunch of cats that lived in a deserted house, and they basically live like kings. They employ servants to cook for them, clean the house. It says if an unlucky mouse would venture their way, they would catch it and eat it, but just for the pleasure of catching it. No one knows where they got the money that they have, but they got money. And it's said that back in the olden days, the town was so overrun with rats and mice, and the cats took care of it, that the people of the town are like, yeah, let them have their house, whatever they need. It also adds the reason they keep a servant is because they're not clever enough to do household chores themselves. I'm gonna say it's no opposable thumbs. Anyway, they're also apparently really difficult to please, so they never keep servants for long. They always fire them or they quit. It says it had become a saying in the town that if anyone found themselves reduced to their last penny, they would say, I will go and live with the cats. And many a poor woman actually did. Our protagonist is named Lizina, and in traditional fairy tale fashion, she has a mother who prefers her sister to her. And this is her biological mother, not a stepmother. The dad's dead. She starves Lizina, and if she dares to complain, gave her a good beating. Last the day came when Lizina was at the end of her courage and patience. I bet. So she said, I'ma go live with the cats. She goes, becomes their new maid and cook, and she's amazing at it, and they love her. It says the air resounded with their purring, which meant they were pleased with their new maid. She picked up little kittens that tumbled about the floor. She patched up quarrels, nursed the sick and old cats. So they're happy. And then one day, this cat that they call their father, he doesn't live there. He lives alone in a barn. He comes down to see how they're doing and inspect the new maid, and they call him Father Gatto. He also loves Lizina, but then one day he sees her crying, and he says, what's wrong? And she's like, actually, I miss my mother and my sister. So he says, you know what? You should go home and only come back here if you want to. But before you leave, I'm going to take you to this cellar you've never been to. He is a big cat, walking on his hind legs in this version. He's like, hey, there's two big jars here. One has liquid gold and one has oil. Which one you want me to dip you in? And she says, well, I guess the oil jar. I don't feel worthy to be bathed in gold. And of course he's like, that's exactly why you should be bathed in gold. So he dips her in the gold jar. Here's a version where he's really big. It says when she came out of the jar, she shone from head to foot like the sun in the heavens on a fine summer day. And except for her pink cheeks and her long black hair, she was like a statue of pure gold. Says Father Gatto purred loudly with satisfaction and said, all right, you can go home now. But he says, hey, if you hear the cock crow, turn toward it. But if you are a donkey bray, turn away from it. So she obeys him. When the cock crows, she turns towards it, and this golden star appears on her forehead. The donkey brays, and she doesn't look at it, and nothing bad happens. She gets home, and her mom and sister are amazed to see her. They love that she's covered in gold, and she's brought a bunch of gold, like gold pieces in a bag. She gives them everything. She gives them the gold. The only thing she can't give them is the gold that's on her, because it won't come off. Now, her sister's name is Peppina, and she's like, well, I want to be gold, so I'm gonna go work for the cats. She goes to work for the cats, and the cats are like, okay, but then amongst themselves they're like, I can't believe she's Lizina's sister. She doesn't look like her. The older cat said, hush, be quiet. Not all servants can be pretty. Dang. Cats give her a chance, but it says with every day that passed, they became more and more aware of this misfortune. As you might have guessed, she's terrible at her job because she doesn't care and she's rude. She breaks the cat's arm, kicking it accidentally with a great wooden shoe. It says Hector has an abscess on his back where a wooden chair was flung at him. Agrippa's 3 kittens have died of hunger because Peppina forgot to get them in the basket from the attic. They're saying all of this to Father Gatto, and they're like, send her away. Father Gatto's like, hey, Peppina, come out to the barn with me. And he says, do you want to be dipped in oil or dipped in gold? And she's like, oh, I want to be dipped in gold. And he's like, that's what I thought you'd say. In oil you go. It says she nearly suffocated inside the oil, and when she came out screaming and struggling, the vengeful cat seized her again and rolled her in the ash heaps on the floor. When she arose, she was dirty, blinded, and disgusting to behold. So he shoves her away and he's like, go away. When you hear a braying donkey, make sure you turn toward it. So on her way home, she does that, and instead of getting a star on her forehead, she gets a donkey tail sticking out of her forehead. When she gets home, they manage to clean off all the dirt. It says it takes a big basin of hot water and 2 cakes of soap to get it off, but they cannot get off the donkey tail. Their mother blames Lizina, so she beats her unmercifully with a broom, then took her to a well and shoved her in, leaving her at the bottom crying for help. We're told now that while Lizina's been home, a prince has stopped by and seen how she's golden and beautiful and sweet and kind and has offered to marry her, and she has said yes. So the prince comes the next day and he's like, where's my bride? And the mom, in a classic fairy tale bride trick, she puts a white veil over Peppina and says, here she is, and he like takes her off with him. But they ride by the house of the cats, and the cats are not letting her get away with this. They say, mew, 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 prince, look behind you. In the well is fair Lizina, and you've got nothing but Peppina. So he rips off the veil, sees the donkey tail and that it's not his girl, takes her back, and he rescues Lizina from the well. He takes her to the palace, and she lights up everything with how golden she is. The next day they were married and lived happily ever after, and all the cats, headed by Father Gatto, were present at the wedding. I'm a cat lover. I would love to have a million kitties at my wedding. I'd probably never actually get married because I'd be busy petting them all. There are lots of other stories like this where there's two sisters and the good one gets the same kind of reward and the other one gets punished, like Frau Holle and Diamonds and Toads. If you want to see my videos about those, here's where you can find them on my fairy tales playlist. This one might be my favorite though, because of the cats. Also check out my book, Dust Spells, a reimagining of the 12 Dancing Princesses, and my podcast, Folktales and Fairy Lore. Link is in the bio.